All right, guys, welcome to the next episode of the Talk to Me podcast. Today, we're going to have with us Monica. And Monica and I met at Rachel's going away party, if I'm not wrong, but I'm going to confirm that with Monica once she's here, which should be in the next couple of minutes.
Hold on one sec, I'm just muted. I have to fix one of the settings. No? Okay, hold on. There we go. Hello?
Hello.
Hey!
This is legit. I love your background.
Thank you. Thank you. It makes me feel like it's summer, maybe. Hi, how are you?
I am fantastic. As fantastic as one can be in 2020, but
Sure.
Can't complain. How have you been?
I've been okay. Are we recording? Or are we just chill chatting?
I just press the record button. It's just
Okay,
easier like that. Yeah. The more I make it like high stakes, it becomes harder for me.
Absolutely. No, very
Right?
low
Yeah.
stakes. Very low stakes. Okay, how am I?
Yeah. First of all, where are you?
So I'm in Montreal.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're like very locked down. It's a treat. I'm sure. I mean, I think Ontario is doing almost as badly. So no jealousy. We're not going to duke it out for worst red zone.
Yeah. I think we're also we hit our highest caseloads a couple of days ago, and then highest death rate today. So.
Oh man, it's just so hard to win this competition. This is really, I think we did that yesterday. I don't know. We're just so much ahead of you guys, It's crap.
You like dark comedy, I know that.
I do. I mean, I do. I get it. Like, it's not funny, but then at the same time, it's so insane that it's hard not to be exaggerated about it. But I'll be good. So people
I hear you.
Don't hate you. Okay, I will. I can do that. I can do it.
Oh my God, I've been looking forward to this one. By the way, before you answer the question about how you are, I told Rachel, by the way, I had this podcast with her, I think day before yesterday. Okay. And I told her I'm meeting you, and she was so excited.
That's awesome. I really love her. She's tremendous. I bet you had a great time with her.
Yeah, we were supposed to speak for an hour and a half, but ended up clocking about 2 hours. So there's always so much to talk to her about, right?
Oh yeah, she's fantastic, and she's got such a full life. And I mean, you too. You're doing so much. So it's
trying.
Yeah, well, that's all we can do is try. It's crazy.
What are you up to? What's happening?
Yeah. So there's a good question. So what am I doing? I'm trying to stay sane. That is a big one right now. I'm going to disclaimer this, as I feel I have to, which is that I am quite privileged. I work from home, and I always have. at least the last 15 years. So this wasn't a huge adjustment in that sense. And then also I have the opportunity to work from home, so I can isolate. So we've got those two things going. Also, I did keep my job. So, and no one that I know so far has passed away, not directly, like not anyone I knew directly. So I'm in a very good position. All intents and purposes, things are great in my world. And I'm still losing my mind. So I really don't know what anybody else is doing, because that's, I was just singing in the shower my new song, which is, I'm losing my cock and picking mind. It's a great song. It's
Can you keep going with that song?
I think it was just repeatedly, and I think I'm losing my cotton picking mind, cotton picking mind, cotton picking mind. I'm losing my cotton picking mind, cotton picking mind, cotton picking mind. It's as far as I've gotten. I'm still working on it, but it's it's gonna have more than one line, I think, when I'm done.
Oh my God, you're making me. Oh God. Okay, that's.
Do you ever sing that in the shower? You think you knew where the soap was, but then it isn't there, and you're like, I'm sure I had soap, and yeah.
But no, I love this song. Okay, I think you should finish this song. I think you should make it a proper 3-minute, 4-minute.
I'm up for it. I can come up with bad jingle lyrics. That's my specialty.
That's your thing.
Write more lyrics. Got it.
Okay. But what's okay? So All jokes aside, what I mean, you shouldn't keep the jokes aside, but what's making you lose your mind? Is it
Well,
the work side of things, or
yeah, I mean, it's a combination of everything. So I've always been very anxious, and it's something that I consistently work at. I very much pride myself on trying not to give it to a lot of people, like not try not to make other people's problems, right? So it kind of manifests a bit in work and stuff like that, but I try to, get focused. But the thing is, when I was allowed to leave my house, I only had a certain amount of time inside my head. But now there's a lot of time inside my head, and I'm kind of seeing what's in there, and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of no good thoughts there. Like there's a real mantra of like, you're a fucking loser that just keeps playing over and over again. And I kind of hit a wall like 2 months ago where I was just exhausted and I felt like a failure, and I was getting frustrated and bitter, and I don't like any of those things. And I just, I was like, okay, I can't. And also the anxiety was like overwhelming, and so I was like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I'm not like I want to kill myself. It's not right now. I've felt that before, but now it wasn't that, but it was. I definitely can't. This can't continue like this. I've got to figure out the stuff in my head and how to manage that. And and so that's sort of, so on that level, it's positive, very positive, because I did get to the place where I was kind of sick of feeling the way I was feeling, and I needed to make some changes. So that's the path that I'm on now, is trying to learn a lot about how to improve my mind and what's going on inside it. And I'm getting somewhere. I really genuinely feel like I'm getting somewhere, but it takes a lot of time. Like it's like I put aside any of the performance stuff except my own show, just to be like, I need to, I work as well, but other than that, my hours are trying to fix this, because I'm 46 and I can't keep doing this. So so that's where it's at. That's a very long answer to.
No. I honestly, for someone looking at your life, I didn't even know you were battling all these things.
No,
You're always on the surface, now that I see, you're always happy, you're trying to make people laugh, but who knew you were like,
who knew I was so tortured? Who knew comedians were so fucked up? You never would know. No,
I know most of them are, but besides that, I didn't know like you were battling, for example, being anxious all the time. How does that come into play when you're going on stage?
I mean, I'm just constantly anxious. Like it's a big thing that I've fought my whole life, because my parents are very conservative and highly anxious, and they don't want to do a lot of things that are risky, which is fine. They're immigrants, and it's like life is risky enough. Like, my dad is a refugee. He had enough, so it wasn't like he needed to take extra special risks. But because of that, everything I do is contrary or risky or whatever. And so I've always told myself I won't not do something because it scares me, because that's not a good enough excuse. So that manifests in comedy, obviously, where it's like, okay, I feel this terror, and I've always felt this terror, and I always felt that terror with performing. I've been an actor my whole life too, and always feel terror. I want to vomit every single performance. It's
really,
it's gotten moderately better, but my heart's palpitating. I definitely feel like I'm going to fail every single performance. There's been lots of times where the show started and I'm like, there's a door right there. I should just take that door. Just get out. Like, get out. I won't fail. It'll be amazing. Just run. Wow. So it's constant. It's definitely constant. But I mean, that's a choice I make to do it, right?
Have you ever taken that door?
No, I have not run out. That's really, I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to. There's lots of circumstances under which I should have, but
I relate to you a lot on that particular level alone. I can't even imagine how you do stage shows, like performances with that level of anxiety. That I think is very, very commendable. Like every time I have to go up on a stage for any sort of public speaking or go to a job interview, I'm all over the place. So hats off to how you even deal with it.
Well, thank you. I mean, some of it is practice too, that you can just like fake it better. I mean, you're doing great. You said, when I've been watching your YouTube stuff, I'm like, you seem completely comfortable. And I'm sure part of it is like, you're probably talking to people that you like, and that helps. I mean, it's similar obviously with me and my show. But also, but then you're practicing, and that's what makes it so that you at least don't think it's going to be a complete nightmare, right? Like you got there's there, but
it's become my jam now, to some extent, I want to say. But it, like I still remember the first vlog I shot. I was pulling breath like for half an hour at a stretch, and I didn't know what I was talking about. But it's like you said, you keep going anyway.
Yeah, and you have to know. I mean, I the guy that you had on last talked about this, but like I'm sure you've heard Ira Glass saying, which the problem is that you have good taste and you know what you want things to sound like, and then that's a big problem because there's that. He said it better, but it's that gap, right? You're going to not be great for a while, and that feeling of not being great when you know what great is and when you like what great is so hard. That's so. If you're people who suck and who who suck and who never really get better, they're fine with everything. I think.
Yes, 100%. No, I can. Okay, does it come from a place of hyper self-awareness then?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what it is. It's also that we're brilliant.
Aside from that.
Yeah, maybe aside from that, maybe it is that we're aware of what we want to do and that we're not necessarily there, and that we are aware of all our flaws, which do get heightened, right? That's our mind's bias is to go towards the negative. So we're going to see more of our flaws than the great stuff that we have to bring to the table. And that makes it really challenging when you're an artist, obviously.
Yeah, because there's total idiots out there who are doing whatever they love, and they don't even know they're idiots.
No, isn't that wonderful? Yeah, that's the Dunning.
What a place to be in, right?
Yeah, we made a film about this, my friend Peter J. Radomski and I, about exactly that it's a very frustrating thing. It's a frustrating thing because they're they're fine with themselves. And then you're tortured, and you're like, I feel like that's not fair. I feel like they should be more tortured, and I should feel better, but that's not how that works.
Yeah, I want to be at that level at some point, just be okay with my shortcomings. But anyway.
Or be okay with like making a mistake. Imagine that, being okay with making mistakes. It's adorable.
Are you not okay with making mistakes though?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I have to make mistakes because if I don't make mistakes, I'm never going to progress. I have to be, I have to make mistakes, but no, not at all. That's one of the biggest things that I'm just realizing. So you get a new hot off the presses insight from inside my brain. It's the truth serum that you got pushed right through the computer.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned being an actor, by the way. I didn't even know you were an actor. I always thought you were.
Neither does the rest of the world, so we're okay.
No, they do, because you have an IMDb page.
Yeah, I know, with like 2 credits or something after like 15 or 20 years of doing it. Yeah, I was nailing it. But yes, technically, yes, I am an actor.
Okay, so self-deprecating humor is your brand then?
I mean, I don't want it to be, but I'm being honest. I mean, like you look at my IMDb page and you're like, that's amazing work for a month of acting, but it's like 20 years of culmination.
Monica, having an IMDb page is a big deal, okay?
Okay.
So take that.
I'll take it.
Yeah, okay, no, but tell me more about just like, what was that journey from being an actor, even if it's for 2 or 3 movies, it doesn't matter. From that to being, say, a voice actor and then stumbling into comedy. I'm so intrigued.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Here's the most abridged version possible. So I wanted to be an actor most of my life. Okay. I really love film, and I love acting, and I like being another character, and I wasn't super comfortable with myself as a person. So it was really nice to to be other people. So nobody had to look at me, it was somebody else, and that was easier. But I really love the art. I just love film so much. And so at 20 I moved to New York City to study acting, and I did that. Yeah. And did, like, I mean, all the right things. I mean, you think that in some, as crazy as it is, you hear that it's not easy to be an actor, but you kind of think if you just do all the right things, that's the formula. Everyone else is doing it wrong. So I went to a really good acting school, and I did that, and then I did independent films a lot, and lived that life of struggling, pathetic actor, and having an apartment with a rat. You know how it is, just the fun stuff, the good stuff. But it was all worth it, because I love New York City with all my heart. And I loved being a performer and being 20 years old, and that's living the dream, even though it's not the ideal dream. It's the dream that I wanted. So that was like still like really, really fantastic. And so about 5 years in, I was like, okay, the problem here is that you can only be in the States for so long. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't quite work. So I moved to Vancouver, and I thought it would be easier because, well, I'm Canadian, but they did not want me. And I mean, the city didn't throw me out. They didn't deport me. But I thought, okay, well, I have good training. I was a decent actor. I was still young. At the time I was 25. And so I was like, okay, well, now everything should be kind of smooth or sailing, because I had good training, all that stuff. I had a good resume on some level. And then I got to Vancouver, and it was consistently like, hey, you're ugly, just gonna let you know you're not attractive enough for film. We already have one ugly person. We can't have more than one. And so then there was sort of
sorry, I'm gonna interrupt. Are you making a joke here? Or
the only thing that I'm making a joke about is that's not the exact phrasing, but the phrasing is we have enough of you're too quirky looking. There's not a lot of space for people that look like you.
But wait, that can be for a character. I understand if they need a certain.
I mean, this is where it's completely asinine to me too. We've got a lot of things. One is that every time I meet people, they say I look like someone they know. I look like their cousin. I look like their Italian relative. I look like so if I look like that many people, theoretically, I should be able to be in film, because I look like a lot of other people.
Because you're relatable. Like, my God.
Yeah, but that isn't, and I'm not trying to be like, I feel like I'm going to sound entirely on this podcast like a bitter fuck, but all right, we're going to try, we're going to just assume it doesn't sound like that and go ahead. But I definitely feel that it's very frustrating. I think even if I am, not gorgeous, I think that should still be okay, but it really isn't as an actor. And weight is a huge thing. I was a normal weight, and I had to lose I was a normal weight, meaning I'm 4'10", and I was about 100 pounds. And then I was told I was fat. I was too fat. So I lost 20 pounds. And so I was, I should say 11 pounds. So I was 89 pounds. And at that point I looked unhealthy, but that's a good look for film, because the camera adds 20 pounds. So the only way to look good on camera is to actually be unhealthy. That's the only way to make it work. And that gets exhausting. Thinking about what you're eating every minute of every day is overwhelming. Anyway, so ultimately, I kind of spun my wheels. I was trying to get work. I was trying to get an agent. There weren't a lot of agents that would accept me. It wasn't. And I would not say that I'm the best actor in the world. I am not always great, but I have my moments. And I certainly think, it could have been easier, is I guess what I'm trying to say. And so I did that. Yeah.
But that's it. That's the over-awareness.
Yeah.
There are stupid actors out there who don't think they're wrong. They're stupid, right?
I know, but also that it's easy for that to come into play when you get the pat on the head, right? If people are telling you, if people hire you, you're going to think you're good. If you don't get hired, you get to kind of lean into self-awareness of okay, well, I'm not perfect. But if you keep getting hired, you're like, I'm the fucking best. I'm so good, obviously, because I'm getting hired.
Because it
So
helps with the validation then.
it helps with the validation, and it's hard because in a lot of the artistic stuff, right, it's, you have to be confident in order to do the things. You got to convince yourself, but you don't get a lot of good feedback. So it's kind of always a bit of a struggle to be like, okay, but I think I'm great, but am I delusional? Am I the person that doesn't know that they're terrible and is still doing it? Like, am I a Canadian or American Idol singer who gets on stage and is like, I'm going to nail this, and then is the worst, could not keep a note? So you start wondering. Anyway, so that's the beginning.
But you still you stuck around for a bit in acting. Is that when you decided to take the leap into, say, comedy?
No, it wasn't that fluid. So I was about 32 or 34, and I had been doing it for like 12 or 14 years at that point. And I was down to an audition a year. That was all my agent could get me. And now the auditions were like paralyzing. Like, I had no faith in my abilities at all. Like, there was an audition where there was just a commercial and I had to walk a dog, and I was like, can I pretend to walk a dog? I was like, all right, well, how would one do this? And then I was like working as some office job, and I would like be filing and then pretending to walk a dog because I was not convinced I could actually pull this off. And that's the state that I got into. And then I started seeing people, friends of mine who were in their 50s, and who were really broke. And I think that it had never really hit me realistically that you could actually not end up making it work. I thought if you worked hard enough, you would find some way of making some sort of life. But then I saw a friend of mine who was in her 50s, and she started to have to sell off her possessions just to make rent. And I was like, oh shit, this is real. Like, I can really end up like this. I'm no longer in a good age category to get hired anyway. So there's every chance that this is my life. It's certainly not going on an upswing. And so then I was like, I need to change careers. And this was before social media, when social media was just starting. YouTube had just started. And I had already started I was like, what can I do to get things moving for myself? So I had already like started things like YouTube and researching technology. And so at that point I was like, okay, I know these tools. A lot of people don't know these tools. And I started kind of navigating into the technology sector. And then because it was something very new, I became like someone who was known for speaking about these things and researching these things. And I became a social media consultant. And so that was very cool. And I met the greatest people in Vancouver in the tech community. And it was really very cool. The only thing is that when you're an artist and you try to deny that you want to be an artist, it doesn't work out. So that's sort of what happened, was that I was doing that and I did relatively well, but it also is exhausting to work in media and to work in social media. And I was working, because I worked for myself at that point. So then it was like, you could work all night and all day. Like it doesn't stop. And then you don't know how to set boundaries, or I shouldn't say you, but I had a hard time because finally I was working for myself and that was better. And so anyway, eventually I started like just getting very, very exhausted. And also the industry started shifting where it was like, oh, okay, we don't really know if we need people that know what they're doing. We'll just we'll hire anyone really. And everybody knows social media at that point, everybody did. And so, and then I also was like, oh, I still want to be a performer. And so, then there was another shift, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm really going on monologues. And
I really want you to keep going on these monologues because I'm learning so much. I mean, oh my God, this is fascinating.
Oh, thank you. You can write my autobiography now. Like, you got enough information. You write the first part.
Yeah, we're going to have the transcript after this anyway. So
oh, perfect. That's so great. Make it so much
Yeah.
easier.
So who did you talk to when things were this bad in that particular phase? Did anyone try and talk you out of quitting acting?
No one can talk you out of not wanting to be a performer in your 30s, because everybody has already given up, changed careers, or has made it. So there's actually not a lot of people going, you haven't made it at 34, but you're really great and you're not making any money and you don't have any prospects. No, you know what? You got to keep going. Like, no one should say that. They actually shouldn't be saying that at all.
Because I say that because I come from India, right? And Bollywood, like you see so many stories like these.
Okay.
When people are literally trying to get their break. This one actor that you wouldn't know the name, but he got his, I think, biggest break when he was either 45 or 40, something like that.
Wow.
And before that, he used to be a nobody. And the reason why I ask is if someone tried to talk you out of it, because all those experiences kind of dented your confidence, but maybe there was something there because you're still an actor.
Yeah, I mean, I still perform, and I don't regret any of that, and I don't regret not doing that anymore. But I also think that there's a bit of a contrast probably between what you're saying and what it's like to be a woman who is aging, because there's only a certain amount of value that you have, unfortunately, in the industry, and that's slowly changing. But it's also slowly changing more in other countries other than North America. Like you see a little bit more representation in British shows and potentially, Scandinavian shows where you see older women, and by older I mean anybody like past 30, but especially 50. 50 is a weird category where you don't see a lot of that. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is that people who are usually performers that are older in North America are usually people who have been performing their whole life, right? That they've gotten to, maybe not as steadily successful, but they've been working. So they haven't necessarily been famous, but they've been working is what I'm trying to say. So you do kind of only have a shelf life of so long, and also, you don't want to be a completely delusional person who is not getting anywhere, but who's just like because I'm haunted by seeing things like that, and like you don't want, so anyway.
This is blowing my mind because I've always known Monica the funny person, and to see this sort of this layer of vulnerability. Do you talk to anyone generally?
I
do you express your feelings?
Yeah, I do, definitely.
Other than comedy?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I am very private, and you and I and Shreya I loved you guys, but because we only knew each other for a short time, it wasn't like I could. The how do we say it? Like I take a while to let down the curtain, right? And so because nice. It's hard for me.
Well played.
So you saw that side probably because we only knew each other maybe a few months, and
yeah. Do you remember how we met? Where we met? Was it at Rachel's going away?
I would assume it was Rachel. It feels like it was Rachel or Emma, but probably Rachel.
Okay. I was thinking it's either of the two.
Yeah, me too.
I couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah, I don't remember it either. I just remember how great you guys are. I don't even remember
thank you.
Yeah, where I met you. But it's just like, oh, I love you guys.
It was almost instant. We connected on so many things. And it's generally not hard to tell how someone is in the first couple of meetings.
You think so? I also feel that way, where if I don't click to some extent with somebody almost right away, it doesn't usually work.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Okay.
I mean, you keep pushing. Sometimes there are relationships that shouldn't be, like you shouldn't be in them, but friendships that you shouldn't be in, but still keep pushing them. You know what I'm talking about.
I know it more in a different way, which is going to sound a bit narcissistic, but
no, tell me.
Sometimes because I'm a performer and then I have a certain energy when you meet me, not necessarily right now, people sometimes gravitate towards me because they want to also have energy or something. So then sometimes I get kind of, I don't want to say roped into friendships because I'm an adult and I can say no, but sometimes it's like, oh, I want to get to know you. And sometimes when they do that, it's someone that's amazing that I also want to get to know, but sometimes it's someone that's extremely dysfunctional. And I'm like, oh, I can't be around you though. But it might take a little time to figure that out because I'm flattered and also uncomfortable saying, no, I don't want to be friends with you. You seem nuts, but nuts in a way where it's like not amenable nuts, not something they can work on and be better, but like nuts where they're not going to fix anything.
But do you call it off immediately or do you take time to Because sometimes there are people that you shouldn't be meeting.
Yeah, like shouldn't even like be encountering in the world, in the orbit kind of thing, or what? Yeah, well, yeah, yes. I think what's easy is when it's easier is when it's men, because a lot of times what they it's not usually a friendship. Sometimes it is. So sometimes it's easier to kind of be like, you know what, I keep to myself or whatever. And that doesn't always work, but at least I'm kind of clear about shutting it down. But with women and being a woman, it's harder to, because you're like, oh, they don't necessarily want to sleep with me, but I also still don't want to spend time with them. So how do I say that without it being a real assassination on their character? You're just not the kind of person I want to get to know. Like, that's impossible. How do you say that?
Exactly how you said it.
Okay, I'm gonna start doing that. You're just not the kind of person I want to get to know. I'm gonna write that down next to my my song lyrics. Maybe that's the second part of it.
Oh God. But a lot of your comedy also revolves around the dating world.
Yeah.
How did that? What started that?
Dating. That started that.
Like what one incident led to that?
It's kind of, yeah. So what was happening was, so I went eventually after technology, a lot of stuff happened, and I went back to New York, and I started doing stand-up. And I was doing like, also, I still, do all sorts of topics as well, but I also was dating. That's where I was doing because I was in a relationship in Vancouver. So when I moved to New York, I wasn't. And so I was doing dating, which was kind of, I wouldn't say the first time I'd done, but first time in like 11 years or 12 years that I had dated. So that was, I mean, I didn't think it would be easy because it wasn't easy before. I never really enjoyed dating, but it was like, oh, it's way different because internet dating is way different. And I'm way different. So I accept almost nothing. Like before, when I was younger, it was like, oh my God, if you're paying attention to me, I love you. Like, I just want to be loved so much. But when I, now that I was older at that point in my 40s, it was like, okay, I don't need this bullshit. Like, I don't really need to be in a relationship or to do anything with somebody unless they're really great. But that meant almost, it was like, oh no, like, any poor treatment, or signs of red flags. I was like, nah, like, I don't need any of that. But I also got a lot of very bizarre messages. And then when I moved to Toronto, I was like, there was a show called Tinder Tales. And so I thought, well, if there's anything I have, it's insane dating stuff. And so I did that show, and it was so great. Adelaide Lafontaine is the person that does this, Adelaide, and she's lovely. She's the producer of that. And so that was really cool because I thought, oh, now there's a purpose. Now dating, there's a reason, for it. And so that was really exciting. And it was probably the first time in like a while that I had felt like people really responded to what I was saying and understood my point of view, which was very hard with stand-up comedy. The first 6 months was a nightmare of feeling like there was no point to this at all. So so it was very exciting to have the dating stuff and to get people to connect with me on that level.
And was this more recently, or was it right after? Like, what was your initial foray into comedy?
So I did a podcast for 5 years, I think. And because I was doing that podcast, at some point I decided I was going to have a segment where I called up comedians, and I would talk to a lot of New York and LA comedians and stuff, and some people from Canada too, and like that were great. And so by doing that, I was like, oh, okay, I never wanted to be a stand-up comedian, but I thought what I would like to do is to do this show live, or a show live, a type of panel show live. I don't think I remembered which one, but I was like, I'm going to do a live show. But if I do live show, I have to get more confident and better at hosting and better at coming up with things on the fly. And when I spoke to a writer, Matt Koff, on my show, who's phenomenal, and I think he writes for The Daily Show now, and that's one of the things he said was that he was like, I'm not a stand-up, don't even really love it, but I wanted to become a better writer, and stand up helps you become a better writer. So I was like, okay, so I'm going to do that. So then when I went to New York, I was like, well, if there's any place that I should do it, I did try one time in Vancouver, but I was like, I wanted to do it in New York because I wanted to be the absolute worst person so I could get better, not just like one of 3 bad people. I wanted to be the worst so that I'd like, because I wanted to see people that were phenomenal. And the Vancouver scene was great, but the open mic that I went to, and this was maybe like a standard open, maybe not all the open mics were like this, but that open mic was like, I didn't feel inspired by any of the people I saw. I was also terrible, but I also didn't feel inspired. And I wanted to see people at an open mic where I was like, okay, that person is here and they're great. And which sounds an asshole thing to say, but that's important for me always, is to work to see to work with people who are better than me. Because if I'm the best or only one of the bad people, that's not going to help me in any way. It's just going to make me feel like I'm all right, and I shouldn't feel like I'm all right if I'm bad. So, but I feel quality wise, I want to see people that are better than me because I want to.
No, because I remember I've attended one of your shows. I think it was Tinder Tales.
Okay.
We were sitting in the front row laughing our asses off.
Good.
That was
that was a great show. Yeah. She produces a great show. Yeah. I had a fun time.
Moving a little away from comedy, which aspects of this I'm sure also reflect in your comedy. How was childhood? It's a big question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big question because it is something that still I'm disappointed in myself to say that it still impacts me, that there's a lot of things that have embedded in my brain that I am shaking out, and I'm like, oh, that's a thing my dad said, that's a thing my mom thinks. Like, my parents are not bad people. They really aren't. They're nice people in a lot of ways, but they had a particular view about the world and about what children are, and I didn't fit those things. And so it was a trial. It was a trial. is what I can get more into it. I'm just like, that's the general perspective there. Is they're not bad people. I don't want anyone to come across and say like, Monica has the shittiest parents. They're just like, they were just bad at raising a kid, I have to say. Like they were just bad at having a person who was unlike them in their life, because their idea was, we have a child and it becomes what we want and what we want to achieve, and we are unable to achieve. This child will do that, and it'll make us proud, and people will look at this child and say, you guys don't suck. You're immigrants, and you came here and you built a life, and you have a high achiever child, and now you have value. And that was sort of that was always the battle, is that I wasn't what they would have wanted. And they adjusted, but that sense is always there of like,
I hear you. And it's that acceptance of the fact that your parents are imperfect. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know when that realization dawned upon me, but it wasn't easy. And just to, I hear you. I don't even know what to say on this. I don't want to make you uncomfortable and have you go further into this. But
whatever you want. I'm actually not like that shy about it. It's just it's a topic I don't want to say. I don't talk about in detail a lot. I make jokes about my mother a lot, but I don't talk in detail.
Yeah, because I've seen those jokes are really funny.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, they're it's a constant surprise to me that these two things could exist, that I could be related to someone. We have nothing in common. We have literally nothing in common. We would not be on the same orbit were we not related. And it's a thing.
Where does she live?
She lives in Vancouver now. Yeah. Okay. So that's good. That works out well. She lived in Montreal, where I live now, and I moved partly to get away from that relationship, and then I eventually moved to Vancouver, and then they followed me there, which I don't think that should be legal. There's no way to enforce a contract where your parents can't follow you legally to a city, but I feel like that that there should be a law against it. Like if you specifically move to not to have space, then that should be your option. I'm really only half joking. Like you don't know what to do in a situation like that where they're not like abusive at that point, but also you're like, but this isn't good. Like,
but it's toxic anyway.
Yeah, it's not healthy, and I can't be what they need me to be. And I was very clear, and it was still an issue. So you can really not solve that. But yeah, but yes, sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And do you? When was the last time you met her?
I saw her 2 years ago when I was in Vancouver. And if I go to Vancouver again, I'll see her. That's not the issue. Just I don't. I can't spend a lot of time with her because and she's not mean to me. She's just, we don't get each other. And also the way she navigates her life is not something that I can fix. And it's extremely, the negativity and her view of the world is draining. It's very draining. And there's just ways in which I try to help, but I'm also like, the only help I could provide, in her opinion, would be to be her best friend and to spend all my time with her and to live with her. And, and it's like, that's never a thing. And so falling short of that is like, well, what I can do is try to give you suggestions to make your life better, because there are things that are very clearly not workable. But further to that, if you're not going to take those suggestions, I don't know what to tell you. Like if you have a problem and you're just going to you're going to just live with that problem instead of fixing it, then don't complain about it. Like at a certain point, I don't know what to do. Is you either try to fix it or you accept it. Those are the only two options.
Yeah. And they expect you to have the same worldview as them, which is, again, it's...
And when it's not good is what's really weird too, because if my parents were very happy and they felt good about the world, and then they said, hey, take our advice and be like us, I'd be like, okay, I can see why, but they're miserable. Like they've made some choices in their life that was good business-wise and stuff like that, but as people, they were always miserable. And my father, they retired to have a good life, but they still were miserable. And my father died. And then it's just like nothing actually got resolved. Like they were always unhappy, and now he's gone, and now my mom's unhappy. And it's like, I don't want advice from you because your life is my nightmare. So
are you in a relationship right now?
I am. Yes.
Okay. Amazing.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. He's very lovely. Yes.
We will get to that right after this. Because Okay. But yeah, I mean, like I can relate to that. Shreya's going to relate to this a lot, and I can't wait to play this episode for her. But
cool.
Do you ever think like, then there's this fear that what if there are certain elements of my personality that are like my mom? Isn't that always, governing your mind,
that's like a huge terror. I mean, I actively, because that's the biggest insult to me, honestly. When my dad would say that, it was the meanest thing he could say, is when he'd be like, oh yeah, you gotta see, so you're just like your mother. And it's like, God, no. I'm sure there are ways in which I slip into things. I actively, this is the biggest thing for me, is actively to work at not being like my mother. Which is good. I mean, that's, one of my friends once said that his name is Jens. He's lovely, but a casual friend of mine. But he said this, and I thought it was brilliant. He's such a good dad, and I was like, oh my God, you're such a good dad. And he was like, yeah, my dad taught me how to not be a dad. Really actively work to be a better dad than him. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing, because I'm not a parent, and I don't want to be, but that's a thing that governs my behavior all the time. Is like, hey, there's a personality you could have where people don't want to be around you, and work at not having that personality.
Oh yeah, no, and that's the silver lining out of that toxic relationship, really.
Absolutely.
What not to do as a human being.
I think so. Yeah, like how not to deal with people. I think that we both probably have that, where it's like their dysfunctions. I imagine this is true for your parents as well, where you're like, the way they relate to people is not healthy either. So you're like, oh, I don't want to relate to people like that, because that creates, I'm sure your parents are like this, because I'm sorry, but I feel like it's almost a common thing with a lot of people, but
immigrant parents in particular.
Immigrant parents, yeah, where it's they hold grudges. They do. They have weird ideas and expectations for what other people do. Yep. And then they hold grudges, but over things that they've never talked to that person about, but they just had this expectation, but that person did something wrong in their mind. And it's like,
and you go addressing this with them and they'll be like, what? No, that never happened.
Yeah, that never happens. A good one. That's my greatest frustration is the, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a denial inside them, but it's like that general lying about what went on or what they've done. My parents did that a lot, where it's like, okay, but the reason I feel like this is because you guys did that. That never happened. We didn't do that. And you're like,
Jesus.
Oh,
every single time.
Oh my God. But you feel like you're like on an island unmoored, like you're just like floating on an island, and you're like, what? Because there's nobody to back you up. You don't have documentation where you're like, no, I'm not. And that's it. It's like, I don't want to say I'm not crazy again, because I don't want to disparage people who have like more mental illnesses than I do. But I'm like, no, I know I've been aware. I didn't come up with things. And what was frustrating as a child, or like or growing up even, is that when I would say, well, this is frustrating because this happened, and that's why I'm not dealing with you in this regard, then my parents would be like, oh, you were always a writer. You always made up things, and you are an actor. You come up with things. And it's like, oh, wow. Okay. This is awful. And so it's like, but I don't think that's true. But also, I mean, I know that's not true, but also,
but it plants a doubt in your own head.
A little bit, yeah.
Right?
You start wondering if you're
did
like,
I do this? Yeah. Oh man.
It's and there's no way around it. You don't get to win this, because you're not going to see it. You're going to feel the way you feel. There's no arbitrator. There's nobody that can be like, this actually happened. And yet you're like, but I feel it. I mean, I know this happened, and I know that it made me feel a certain way, but I can't ever resolve it, because you don't even think it. You're not even going to come to the place where you think this happened. And then when they finally, at some point, sometimes they'll admit to something, and then they go, but what can we do? We are sorry, okay? We are sorry. And it's like, well, that's great. And that doesn't actually fix anything. Like in terms of like, it doesn't wash away anything. I still have things that are, in pain about this. And so it's like, that's great that you're sorry, but it doesn't make me suddenly want to be your best friend. Like we can't.
You're sorry, but do you agree with the fact that you were wrong, right?
I don't even know. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I get that they are doing the best. They're all doing the best they can, in environments that aren't great, like, especially if they're coming from poorer countries or war-torn countries and things like that. Obviously, that's been my parents' experience. And, where your parents are from is not like a peaceful, perfect place either in a lot of ways. And so it's like, so there's obviously that baggage, but also, yes, you did the best you can. And I recognize that, but I also still can't make your personality a personality I want to be around and still be healthy. Yeah. Those are two things that are incompatible. Me being around you a lot and being sane. And so we got to pick one, and I'm going to pick my sanity.
And you owe that to yourself.
I think so. And I think, I read a lot about boundaries and about how people will say that your boundaries are mean, or you're a mean person for having them. And it's like, okay, I will have to, it's hard to not feel like a mean person. But also, I kind of just need to be healthy as best as possible. And I got to do things to make that happen,
No, 100%. And what's completely fascinating is that this spans across cultures. Like, I can relate to a lot of things that you said. Like I said, Shreya is going to relate to almost all of the things you said. But, okay, you know what? Let's move to happier thoughts. Talk to me about the lucky man.
Okay. He's lovely. Okay. I was like, oh, should I no, because the story of how we met is fun. So I was like, okay, I'll tell you how this was. So he's also a performer. He hosts burlesque shows. And so he and my close friend here, Kathy Slayman, who's a great performer and a great host, she was like, can you come to my show and be supportive? And I was like, sure. And she was co-hosting with this guy, Jimmy Fool. That's his stage name. And
Jimmy Fool?
Jimmy Fool, yeah.
Nice.
His real name's Jay, but he has the stage name. And so so I was like, okay. So I go and I'm supportive and whatever. And then at some point he asks, is there anyone here who hasn't been to this show before? And I never volunteer that stuff, never, because I don't like the focus to be on me when I'm not performing. Like I don't even like people to sing happy birthday in a restaurant when they look at me. It's like, no, I'm not supposed to be on right now. Like, this is where I get to be myself. So I was like, I never would have said anything, but I was at a table with Kathy's friends. And so they were all like, and I'm like, oh. And so then as soon as I was like, I know what's going to happen there, because I could kind of feel a little bit of an energy, like where he thought I was cute or whatever. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be fucking great. Like, now I'm going to have to go on stage. I don't have anything prepared. Oh, so he asked me
make
to go
a fool of myself. Yeah.
Yeah, as always. And so he asked me to go on stage, and there's, I like to say this, but it's basically I spun a pizza box on his dick. That's what it was. He had a pizza box that was cut out to be like a Wheel of Fortune thing.
How much of this is a joke?
No, this is all true. It's just that when I'm saying it, it makes it sound more lascivious than it actually is. Like, he had a pizza box cut out that had choices. That was like a Wheel of Fortune kind of thing. And then I spun it on his area, but it wasn't like his equipment was exposed. But that's, of course. But that's effectively what it was, is I spun a pizza box on his dick. And then one of the choices on the thing was, so there was all sorts of choices of things like win tickets or whatever. One of the choices was slap Jimmy. And so I spun it, and then at the end, whatever, I was like, oh, I didn't get to slap you. And then he was, I know, this is my idea of romance, okay? So really, this is, if you're wondering, like, what does Monica think is sexy? This is how it happens.
I would pay for this stand-up comedy set, by the way. I'm literally...
I'm so glad. Okay, maybe I never talk about this on stage. Maybe I will someday.
Did you slap him then?
What's that?
Did you slap him then?
Yeah, so he said, go ahead. And I already got the sense that he was kinky, which is something I look for, because he had pierced nipples, also a good sign for me. And then he was like, he seemed very into the slapping, which is like, I'm not that into slapping guys, but I guess I want a guy who's at least open to that kind of stuff. And so he was like, well, go ahead, or something like that. And I was like, okay. And I just felt this like energy. I was like, okay, I think I could sleep with this guy. Like, that was kind of my thought. And that's kind of all I thought. And then he started talking to me after the show, and and here's the thing. I have a problem recognizing people in general. And if they change their looks even a little bit, I'm screwed. So he had a wig on. He started talking to me. I was like, oh, nice to meet you. He went away. He took his wig off. He came back to talk to me. I had no idea who he was. So at this point, he's talking to me, and I'm like, okay, who's this person now?
Oh, wow. Okay.
I got a lot of problems. So he's like, oh, I should introduce myself properly now, that I'm like, whatever, my name is Jay. And I was like, what was your other name? And so somehow he still thought it was a good idea to get to know me. So he added me on Facebook, which was a good thing, because I thought that's what he should do. Yeah. And then he showed up at a show I was hosting, which was Tinder Tales. I was then hosting that in Montreal. But again, he changed his looks. Now, again, I had no idea who he was. So he was in the front row, and there was only 5 people at that show because it was like a bad night and whatever. And so I was like, hi, everyone. And how did you hear about the show? And he's like, well, you were at my show, so I thought I'd come to you. So I was like, oh, hi. And I was just like, oh, this is it's a good start. But I did think it was great that he showed up at the show, and I was like, okay, he's obviously interested in me, and that's a good sign going forward, like I don't have to guess. I mean, I obviously he's into me, and then he asked me out, and then we started dating, and there's other stuff involved in all of this, but effectively it was like, okay, great. Like he was lovely, he was sweet, he was caring. I heard good things about that he was good in bed, you know, so that was where it started, was just like, I do need to get laid, and I've heard he's good in bed and that he's respectful, and so let's start there. And then I didn't think I'd be having a relationship, but I was like, oh, I guess this is pretty good, so let's do this. I guess we were both like, you know, we have our profiles, but like online, but also we don't have any time, and this is pretty good. So that's kind of where we were at.
That's awesome. What year was this?
This was a little over 2 years ago now, so 2018.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's surprising and lovely. He's a very kind, sweet guy, great performer, and we have a lot in common, obviously, and made the pandemic like obviously way easier to have a person that I care about in my life, you know, and yeah, so.
You know, I have to say this, you look your happiest.
Aw, that's so nice to hear.
Ever since I met you. So Jimmy is his name, right?
Jimmy's is, yes.
So Jimmy, if you're watching this, good job, man.
Okay, I'll have to play this part for him. He'll be very pleased. He's a very good person, and yeah, we have a good time together.
That's awesome. And how did you guys cope with this whole lockdown shit?
So they legislated this lockdown that if we live alone, which I do, he doesn't, but I do. If we live alone, we are allowed one visitor. So that has made our life a lot easier, because here's the thing, both of us need a lot of space. So if we see each other once a week, that is great. Once a week is a very nice space for us. And so that's been perfect. The first lockdown where we weren't allowed to see anybody was not good. Like, I mean, not bad for us in terms of our relationship, because it was not like we decided we didn't like each other, but more like mentally, as somebody who has all the thoughts that I had now that I'm working on, but was like, they were swirling around a lot and I didn't see anybody. That was that was definitely a real struggle back then. I think I'm finding better ways to cope. 2, I've leaned into this more. And then 3, obviously, yes, I have him to visit me. If I did not, that would be very difficult. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy for you. I can't even get over it.
Thank you. But I was also fine when I wasn't dating anyone. But when you met me was also a difficult time, because I had a lot of things that I had gone wrong in my life that I was trying to navigate. You know, it was a particularly influx time for me. So so I definitely was really struggling to come across as sane and functional around when you met me.
And honestly, that's probably why we connected in the first place. As you read on your Instagram bio, magnet for strangeness, it's, you know, we're all strange people, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't think normal is cool anymore.
I agree. I only thought that briefly when I wanted to be normal, when that seemed like an appealing thing. I think I thought normal was cool. And now I'm like, I don't really relate to people who are normal. I mean, you know, they have to be like functional, they have to work on themselves, but I like people who are strange and don't think like, you know, like they have their own opinions. Yeah.
Do you remember the last dream you had?
The last dream I had? That's an interesting question. I have a lot of weird dreams, but
I asked one of my friends on I don't know if you've seen any previous episodes, but
I have. I saw the most recent one.
Yeah, so his dream was crazy, and he took a few minutes and he's like, I need to frame it in my own head, but it was such a, like, it gave me goosebumps. So I love this question. So
well, I'm going to give you the only dream I remember, because it's something that I'm like always surprised that it happens. It's a bit of a recurring dream, but it's not constant. It just happens occasionally. So my father passed away when you met me, around when you met me. So that was like around 2016 or something. And I'm fine with that, in the sense of like, he was very ill and he needed to go and all that stuff. And you know, we weren't necessarily able to resolve a lot, but that's life. And so I feel like
considering the dream I'm going to tell you, I feel like I was like, I'm okay with everything in as much as it can be, but the dream's really weird. And so I have a lot of dreams, not a lot. I have a dream occasionally where he's around. Okay. And then as I'm talking to him, or something happens, like I'm aware he's dead, but I will call or do something and like call the place, and then he'll answer, like my parents' place. And then I'll think in my head, you can't be talking to me. You're dead. How are you talking to me? You're dead. And then that will be like the thing that like, but he's in my dream. He's always alive, and I'm always aware he's dead, but he's not aware he's dead. And so it's like this. Wow. Yeah. So it's like very strange, because I know he can't be alive. I know it's not possible, but then he's alive and doing these things and existing. And it's like, but you're dead. I know you're dead. What's happening? So yeah, so that's a dream I have a lot, and it never does resolve in the dream. And then I wake up and I'm like,
yeah. How does that leave you drained, or?
It leaves me like feeling weird. I don't actually think that it drains me most of the time. It's just weird. It's like it's a weird feeling.
Oh wow, that's strong.
It is. It's really bizarre. It's like, okay, that's I don't know, I can't really parse that out.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with me.
You're welcome.
You mentioned your parents were immigrants, and where are you from originally? Were you born in Canada, or?
I was born in Canada. I'm first generation Canadian. Yeah, my parents were both born in Hungary. And so and my dad, they were born like, my dad's 10 years older than my mom. And so he was born like, they were born around, so my dad was born, I think, just after World War II, or just like on that sort of cusp. I'm trying to remember, maybe a few years after. So everyone, the grandparents, they've all kind of like been through that war. And then there was the Hungarian Revolution. So they got that. And my dad came to Canada as a refugee. And then my mom eventually came as well, because they met through a matchmaker, as all relationships happen.
Exactly.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so they're from Hungary. So and strangely enough, even though they've been in Canada since about 64, 68, it's not like they've actually been here. Like when you talk to them, you're like,
they're still there.
You live in Canada? Like, like I just have conversations where I'm like, like they don't know anything that's happened. Like they don't, like gay rights was like, they didn't even know. I mean, it was 10 years before I had a conversation with my parents and my mom, and said, was having a conversation about my landlords, who were friends of ours, getting married. And she was like, but they're two men. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, when did this happen? And it's like, it happened 10 years before this conversation. I was like, how did you not notice? Do you know what I mean? Like it also wasn't not controversial, unfortunately. It was a bit controversial because people are weird about it. But so it's stuff like that where I'm like, are you here? Like they're here, but because they didn't have a lot of friends or any friends. And then they spend time only with each other and no one else. They were able to have this bubble of not noticing anything about how the world was happening in a way.
Yeah. And or had people around them who could kind of tell them what's happening, right? Like there's so many yes men around us.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah.
If you find only other dysfunctional people, they will tell you you're right? Like
exactly.
And also, if you only have like a side of the story that makes you seem right, then also it's very easy for people to be like, like my mom has a great, story she likes to tell people about how I told her never to call again. And that's not what happened, but it's a better story than admitting that she has any culpability in our conversation. But, there it is. She basically, she would call 9 times in a row. She would call and leave increasingly hysterical messages. And at a certain point I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not coming home to 9 screaming messages. You have to accept that you leave a message and I will eventually call you back. And my mom said, I can't deal with that. And I was like, well, then you can't call me because I can't deal with the other thing. And then because she's not able to navigate her feelings and be like, okay, I will call once and leave it alone and internalize my feelings or work them out myself, because she can't do that. Her decision was, well, I guess I can't ever call. So, but then when the story she tells people is that I won't allow her to call. So it's like, okay, it works out for me either way. But also that's not the real story. So it's stuff like that where you're like, oh,
good for you for keeping your foot down, man. I mean,
thank you. That's all I can do.
That must have been so hard. And are you like, generally, are you confrontational, or does that leave you breathless?
Oh God, no, I'm not confrontational at all. Like I only fight when I need to, like if it's something that's really important or I'm at my breaking point. Sometimes now being in my 40s, I'm just like, nope, right? But no, I'm not confrontational at all. I just will stand up when I need to stand up. So yeah, it's always very hard. And it's very hard because when I talk to my parents and tell them something, it's not like they go, oh, I'm gonna think about this. It's like it just goes into the pocket of their brain where they don't like something, and so it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. What are you grateful for, Monica?
Oh, so much, honestly, despite how I probably sounded in this conversation.
No, you sound amazing. I feel like we need 15 episodes to cover hundreds of.
By then I'll have my theme song. I'm losing my mind. That would be great. I'll start a show that's just me singing that song, and it progresses as we go through the 55 episodes. I am grateful for a lot of things. I am grateful for so I have really great people in my life, like genuine, like you, obviously, like good people that I've met that I feel very connected to, even though we don't live in the same city. Like I don't feel like, well, I'll never see you again, and screw that person. They had like a brief, whatever soiree in my life, and that's not the word, but it's similar. So I'll remember after we talk. But that's it. Flounce. There's a word. I'm looking for the word. But yeah, so I'm grateful for my connections with people like you, who are like lovely people that I'm like, okay, I must be doing something well in order to make connections with people that are so lovely and kind and sweet. So I have good friends around me. I've made good friends here in Montreal, lovely people that, good, very nice, solid circle. People, I am grateful for, having a thing that I feel passionate about, like performing, because a lot of times when I read things about self-improvement, they're like, oh, well, you need, you find your purpose. And if you find your purpose and, people feel confused about their purpose, which I recognize. I don't feel that, at least. I feel like that part I get. I need to be doing something artistic, and all of those, it permeates into different ways of expressing myself, but I don't have any doubt that that's a real thing for me that is important to me and that I need to be doing. So I'm grateful that I know that. I have a lovely apartment in, a weird area, but I'm into it. I say that because literally every time I do a podcast, there's a fire engine, a police car, construction work. And the great thing is my street is like a quarter of a street. There's a cemetery and then a cul-de-sac, but I think everything happens on my street. Like every fire, every single interaction that happens in the city of Montreal, I think happens right in front of my window. So I love my place. It's very entertaining, especially.
Is it like bang in the city, or is it on the outskirts? Or
no, I'm fortunate. I found a great place because I have a lovely friend who recommended me to get this apartment where it there's not a lot of vacancies, and so as soon as it opened up, he had recommended me to his landlord, and I got to see the place and stuff, and it kind of worked out. And so it's very close to the heart of the city. I just have to take one bus, and then I'm in the heart of the city, and very close to a lot of really cool places that I used to go to a lot when we had a city, but they will exist again. And I have a lot of good people in my life and things. Yeah, so
that's beautiful. That's such a good answer.
Thank you.
Are you happy moving back? Like, were you happier in Toronto than Montreal?
No, I mean, no, not at all. Like, what's weird about Montreal was I genuinely didn't like it when I grew up here. I really didn't like it. And I think a big part of that was my family. But my family doesn't live here anymore. And so it's kind of a nice city when you're not having people tell you suck. That's a good part of it, and not being controlled. Like there was probably areas where I just didn't realize these areas existed because I wasn't allowed to go to them until I moved out. And when I was 18, I had a lot of other stuff going on. So I was like, okay, I didn't get to see a lot of the city. So that is, so I did never expect it to come back here. I didn't like it at all. But things have changed in the city and I've changed, and I'm very happy being here, which was a total shock to me. I ended up here just because I ended up here, not because I thought I was going to stay.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to just do a tour here for a month and then figure the rest of it out. But I was like, you know what? This is pretty damn good. You know?
Yeah, because I remember talking to you back then. I think that's what we spoke about. You might come back, at some point.
I thought I would. Yeah. But then I was like, to be honest, there was a lot I liked about Toronto. I really liked a lot of things. But I had a hard time with housing there and finding housing. And because I moved like 15 times in the 2 years that you knew me, it was draining. And I was like, I'm kind of done with this. So I did want not so much stability, but less moving every month, like less of that.
That's like physically and mentally exhausting.
I found it definitely.
I relate to that as well. I don't know if you know this. I was in Canada. This wasn't the first time we came here. I've lived here in 2007 and 8 as well. And I live with my extended family. And that experience, which I don't want to go into right now, but that experience was not good at all.
Okay.
So when I came back in 2015 with Shreya, my experience is entirely different of the same city.
Oh, that's amazing. See, there you go. Same thing. Yeah.
Exactly the polar opposite experience. And it's just so weird, right?
Yeah, that's really weird. Well, yeah, because like you think it's the city, which I mean, to some extent, I think it's very important to have a city that you gel with, but also it is the people and your experience.
That's just huge. Wow, man. I didn't know any of this stuff about you.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
Well, good. I'm glad that it wasn't like, I've heard all of this before. You're constantly talking on a podcast about yourself. I am constantly talking on a podcast about myself, but different aspects. It's like,
yeah, exactly. I'm glad you're putting yourself out there so much. I subscribe to your channel, by the way.
Thank you. I subscribe to yours.
Nice. Okay. Excellent.
We're friends now. That's how that works.
Yeah, no, exactly. Anything that you'd want to change about your life?
I will honestly say, okay, there's going to be a no, and then there's a but. Okay. So the no is no. I really try to live my life not regretting things. I really try to, I feel that's one of my worst fears as well. There's so many. That's another one of my worst fears, is to look back on my life and be like, I should have resolved this with this person. I should have done this. I should have. So I try to like do the best I can with what I have and then move along. But what I would like to change, and it's impossible, so I can't, but I'll just say it for the record. I wish that I had the self-possession that I have now, to the extent that I have it, when I was younger. I wish that I wish that I liked myself more when I was younger. I wish that I expected better from people around me, and from people I dated, especially when I was younger. And I just wish I wasn't so like hungering to be loved. And, I think I would have made healthier decisions for myself at that point. In general, I think I would have come from a better place. So I kind of like feel like when I think about the younger me, I'm like, oh, I wish I could tell you all the stuff that's like gonna be fine, that it doesn't matter and you won't care. Like, stop doing the stuff you're doing. Stop feeling bad about yourself. And I have to say that now in my 40s, but it's like, I kind of do wish that when I was like younger and prettier and all that stuff, like I wish that I got some of that, and that I understood some of that I enjoyed my life more then, I guess I should say. Like there's a lot there anyway.
That says a lot about how much you've grown as a person.
Yeah, thank
you. How you kind of matured emotionally, right? That's a lot of people don't even get to the realization that they need to mature, emotionally speaking,
Yep, that's true. That's true, because they can blame it on other people, which I guess is easier. Like, it's easier to say, well, I guess everybody out there sucks, every single other person. You're like, that can't be possible. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, you gotta take some responsibility. Okay, but that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah. And this is awesome. This is just.
Thank you. It's been fun.
What do you like cooking? What's your comfort food?
Okay, so I don't like cooking much. I enjoy it when I'm in the zone, but I can't, like you and Shreya. Oh my God. Like, you
it's
guys,
mostly Shreya. It's not me.
Okay. I didn't know if it was a little you, and I wanted to make sure I didn't exclude you.
Yeah.
She seems to genuinely love doing it. And she's so good at it. And it's so tasty. And every time I see her Instagram, everyone follow her. What's her Instagram? You know it better than I do.
It's Gumshatut.
Spell it?
It's GHUMSHATOOT. Is that
perfect? Yeah. Everyone follow her. But she posts great pictures. She's so great. I love her. Thank you. She posts pictures of the
you and me both.
Yeah, good. Thank goodness. I love your relationship. Like, I genuinely look at you guys and I'm like, you like each other and you like spending time with each other and you support each other. And you're both so fucking adorable. It's really lovely.
Thank you.
So cooking. I like cooking occasionally. I have a slow cooker, and I made some broth the other day, and I felt like a real adult. I sometimes do those things, and then, I don't want to have broth 10 times in a week, and that's the problem with cooking for yourself, is when you don't cook for, like, you're just cooking for yourself, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe how bored I am of this great thing I made. But so I don't really like cooking much. I do it sometimes when I get excited about it, or food in the fridge sometimes.
And what's your go-to dish? So you're having a really bad day, and if you get this food, you'll be.
Would I order? Like, could I order it, or do I have to make it?
You can order it.
Okay, I can order it. Okay, ramen soup. I love ramen.
Nice.
So delicious and comforting, and like, noodly. I love noodles.
Nice.
Yes.
Are you good with money?
No. I feel like that question was like asked like right after you got a report, and then you were like, let me check in. Like, it felt like you know how bad I am, and then you're like,
no, because this is the one thing I'm gonna ask everyone this.
Okay.
Because I'm horrible with money. I used to be horrible with manifesting money.
Okay.
And so I really want to know how people are with money.
So I would say the way in which I'm not terrible is that I get it now. I get what money is now. Like, I understand how much of it I have, but I'm fortunate to have gainful employment that is decent. I am significantly in debt, and that is probably the thing that like is, stressful or whatever around money right now. And the fact that I'm constantly in fear that somehow I get fired and then I'm totally screwed, because that's a reality of life, right? That's a reality of how we live, as we are living paycheck to paycheck. I really thought that I was terrible with money, but there are two different factors here, which is one, that for a long time I had student loans and I also didn't earn a lot, and then there was no way to navigate it. So I was kind of always terrible with money because there was never any way to make the amount that I had total up to what I needed to have. And when I saw a debt consolidator, that's what they told me. And I was so excited to hear that I wasn't completely a mess. It was like, they're like, there is no way that the total of what you have totals up to what you need to pay the things that you need to pay. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not just not being able to do this. Okay, that makes sense. I do have a bit of entitlement, is I feel that if I work really hard, I should be allowed to get food for myself and do stuff, and I know that that's like a very privileged and thing to say and all that. And so I recognize that, but I do feel like you shouldn't have to work every single day very hard to get nothing but paying your bills. That feels like that's not our purpose. That doesn't feel right. So I feel very entitled about that. That's not right. And that gets me into debt.
Okay. Like, I feel like everyone's different when it comes to money, and it's
some people are good with it.
Huh?
Some people are good with it,
Some people are really good with it. Some people are good at manifesting the abundance of it.
Yes, which I'm also trying to focus on.
Yeah. So that's why I was curious about this.
That's one of the things I have written down in my book. I can't prove it to you because there's a virtual background but this is one of them is money flows freely and abundantly into my life. That's one of the affirmations that I say every day and night, because I'm like, oh my God, it's so hard not to like read that and be like, no, it doesn't. No, it's not gonna.
Yeah. Yeah. But at least you're doing it. At least you've started. You're on that path.
And it does sometimes happen. Sometimes the government will send me back my own money, like in the form of a GST rebate. And then I'm like, I guess I manifested this.
Yeah. What a great country though, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, Monica, I have enjoyed every single minute of this conversation, and I hope you did as well.
Oh my God, so much. It was so genuinely lovely to talk with you. Thank you for the therapy,
Those are big words. Thank you for sparing, 1.5 hours for me? Thank you so much.
It was lovely. It was lovely. And I do agree that we don't see how, like, all the stuff that's behind the curtain with people, right? Where everyone's trying to look sane and functional. And I get it. And I too want to look like that at all times. But it is also like really nice when you talk to a person and you're like, hey, here's this, like, for you. It's like, well, you're great. You seem like you shouldn't have bad voices in your head. You should be fine with yourself because you're lovely. But that's not the case. There's going to be little demons. And so sometimes big demons. And so that's always exciting to hear about.
Yeah, it kind of humanizes everyone, right? So, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah, as like a real human. Exactly.
Yeah. Amazing. All right, I'm going to let you go and stay in touch. We'll chat soon anyway.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care, Monica. Bye.